You guys, today, truth seekers are going to love this episode. We have Rachel Sunshine on the Craving Consciousness podcast. She is going to open all of our eyes to so much neat stuff. And I feel like it's part of your purpose, right? She says she's got a huge following under Maiden Anarchy and also DIY Anarchy. This is on Facebook, I'm taking it.
Yes.
Okay. And so this is kind of your purpose, is like uncovering truths and lies and all of that, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I have been a political advocate since I was 7 years old. So that's a really long time. I am mostly known for writing a book. It's called How Medical Tyranny Murdered the United States Constitution. My background is in constitutional law for my education. And so a couple years ago, when we started experiencing medical tyranny under COVID, I actually wrote a short little pamphlet that just explains the historical case analysis of how the Supreme Court has legislated from the bench so that we could enact emergency powers that basically suspend habeas corpus. So that is what I'm mostly known for. And then, of course, my anarchist leanings, where I believe that the government should be completely voided. And I hope that some of your audience agrees with me after today's discussion about psychological operations.
Yeah. I watched a film you did, or a video you did, when you were speaking to an audience about this. And I remember as soon as you said something about the Constitution, right? About like, we just got to get rid of this, like a bunch of little old people got up and started walking out. But everything you said like had me glued to the video, because there's so many of us, we don't know what's really happening.
Yeah, absolutely. They've done a really good job of distracting you and making sure that your psychological awareness is low vibrations so that you're not aware of what's going on at the top of the chain here. And it's truly that bread and circus metaphor that everybody uses. That's what we're dealing with right now. So it's psychological manipulation through and through, though.
Yeah. So is that what you would say a psyop is? A psychological operation can you define it for our audience?
Yeah, so a psychological operation is a way to manipulate people's behavior and their conduct through mental exercises, basically. So you can have somebody manipulating you in a way like, with what they show you. It might not be the full picture, okay? Or they might be manipulating your emotions, like with fear, so that you're so hyper focused on this one issue that they can get away with doing a million other issues. This is I would say, a thousands year old, ancient, perhaps even ancestral form of human manipulation that has been going on for quite some time. And they have really started to perfect it and then start to do what they call the ritual of revelation, where they tell you what they're doing. And you're so distracted that it's just a subconscious message that your brain receives. You don't actually hear them saying it, but your brain is receiving it. And that is part of their occultist rituals.
Okay. So would that fall under predictive programming? What you just said?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, and the other thing, what you said is they actually tell you what they're going to do. And for some people, it flies over. Other people, they're like, it's so far out there that I just can't even accept this.
Yes, absolutely. Mark Twain, I believe, is the person I'm quoting correctly when he says there's three types of people. There's people that know, there's people that know once they're told, and there's some people that will never know.
Okay.
Okay.
I like that.
So I'm one of those people that didn't know, but now I know because I was told. So that is my background in psychological manipulation. I was gang stalked, which when I was gang stalked in 2015, that wasn't something that people had really heard of. A psychological, operation on specific people to target them through electromagnetic frequency weaponry. Now, I don't want to get into the specificities of, is it a gun? Is it a satellite? Is it a sound wave? I have no idea. I don't know. Those would fall into theories at that point. But they've been using electromagnetic frequency manipulation on people to send subconscious messages, or MK Ultra through the TVs. Okay, so we've been dealing with this from a subconscious standpoint all the way down to what we hear on the radio. Okay, and all of these messages are put into place to manipulate your mind. Sometimes they even have voice to mind technology where they make a person think that they're schizophrenic because they're hearing multiple voices in their minds. So the way that I have been this has been revealed to me is that there is a group of people which have been written about. They're called the Committee of 300. Okay. And this book was written in 1991. This dude is an amazing prophet in regards to being able to tell the future, or he was just told their story and used to actually be a former committee member, which is what I believe. And he turned on them because of what they were planning on doing to us.
Yeah,
And
the
so
shock
he
and
became
awe.
he became a whistleblower essentially, and he wrote that book. But what became revealed to me is that there is a group of people who have been manipulating the frequencies of the earth to hack people's brains, and that what we believe is reality is not here at all. That's not what we're here for. This appears to me, based off of what I've been revealed, to be an actual, like, very high up military operation.
Okay. So I'm glad that you brought up, boy, and we probably talked for 17 hours about this, but
17 hours.
that number just come, but before we started recording, I was saying how, my audience is really woo. I help people develop their psychic and mediumship abilities. And me, like, going on a walk nowadays, I'm just like, no, nothing's real. Like simulation. Like, I've talked about this, like, not using your words, but more like, there's somebody out there that wants you to manifest their future. And so they're using you to manifest the future that they want.
It's so funny that you used an analogy of going for a walk, because the revelation that I experienced, I call that a walk. I call it going for a walk. And that's what it is. It is a revelation of the reality around you. And hopefully you come to the realization that, yes, it's a simulation. That is probably the closest thing that we could describe it to the truth. It's a simulation, and it appears to be some type of military simulation operation. I don't want to bring aliens into this, because we all know that is the next psychological operation, right? They've been inundating us with alien and UFO information, and we just know it's coming. But anyway, that's what we have in store for us for the future. But some sort of celestial, not quite human, but maybe still part human. Maybe that's what we have in regards to what our DNA was mixed up with all of those years ago, which is why some of us have some of those psychic powers and things like that, if you consider the world and what they've studied with the brain, the average person uses 5 to 15% of their brain. That means that even those of us who are the strongest with our brain still are not using 85% of our brain. So when somebody has a psychic ability, that's actually just unlocking a part of the brain, I believe, that was accessible and used years ago by our ancestors.
Mhm.
So I think it's kind of funny sometimes when people say, "Oh, we're the smartest that we've ever been," as human beings. I actually think that we're not. I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm totally one of those idiots. I've been stupid even just yesterday. It happens, maybe even this morning. But this is where we're at. We are not using our brains. And so I do believe that there is a lot of knowledge that has been lost through the ages that had made human beings quite powerful beings in and of themselves, a holy creature, if you will,
Mhm.
and they've shut that off through psychological manipulation.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me going with that, right? Because that's why all of us psychic people are like, cleanse your third eye, open your third eye. Like you're this
I am
electronic being
sure. Yes, absolutely.
because they just
That's right.
cover
You ever
that
break
up.
out on the forehead right here and it's your pineal gland just kind of cleansing itself? Absolutely, I've been there.
Wow. So you're saying thou at least 1,000 years that this, because that was one of my questions is when do you think that we got hijacked?
Okay, so my degrees, my educational background is in constitutional law, but my undergrad degrees are actually in political science and religious study with an emphasis in pre-law. So in my mind, I have a good thousands of years of history of human beings. I could go into details about how ancient pagan religions like Odin, like the Vikings, transformed into Christianity, which then transformed into the state. I could go into lengthy discussions about that, but I would have to say that what we experience now on a psychological level is something that has been going on for at least 4,000 years.
Wow.
At least 4,000 years. But my theory is that it's been going on for hundreds of thousands of years. Human beings have a history cycle of about 10,000 years. And then for some reason, every 10,000 years, it just seems to get wiped away. And so, even though we know human beings have been on the planet for quite some time, we only know about 10,000 to 13,000 years of history. And when we get to 13,000 years, things become very spaced out. We have a lot of gaps in regards to how people did things. And so it becomes very convoluted. And we start to really have, at 10,000 years, a better understanding of human history. We are getting to that point of a wipe. So expect that.
Wow. So I want to ask you about controlled opposition, but I also, on the heels of what you just said, don't let me forget, I want to come back and ask you about your energy management and how you manage knowing all of this and not getting stuck in the fear. But controlled opposition, that is something that is kind of new to something that I was aware of. And now I'm seeing it everywhere and it's freaking me out because we only know what we know, like what you were saying. And so now I see things like things that I thought I was believing in, kind of like there's this little opposing thing to like, take this left. And then I'm like, oh my God, is this real information or am I being manipulated again? Like they're putting us, I feel like you said, convoluted in all these little tiny different corrals and be like, well, this one fell for this and that one fell for that. Like, can you add to that?
Oh, okay. So my sister is like one class away from getting her master's in psychology. She is quite smart about psychology. I'm very proud of her for what she knows psychologically. We have had lengthy discussions about this. Okay. And so, bottom line is, if you can't figure out what's real, and you have no idea what's real, then you don't know what to fight. And if you don't know what to fight, then you become depressed and anxious, and then you start to ignore everything. And then some kind of catalyst happens where you are forced to confront it again. But then again, you come to the realization, I don't know what exactly is real. And you keep going through this cycle of anxiety and depression, and then, confrontation, and then realization. And there's really just no way to get out of this loop at this point in time, because we have such an extensive amount of mass psychosis. We have a vast majority, they're estimating only 5% of us are actually awake and aware about what is going on with our visual leadership. Okay, so the lack of visual, and the visual leadership, our presidents, the military, we're all aware, we can feel it in our gut that they're working together against us for some particular reason. And then, of course, millions of us have gone out and researched and tried to figure this out. And the bottom line is that they're working for somebody else.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. That's all that it is. And so this is a thousands year old tactic. This is not something that they came up with. This is just something that they're revealing to us. And in doing so, they're revealing all of the different angles of the lies that we've been told. And so, yeah, in your mind, you just it's explosive, you're sitting there like, whoa, okay. Is religion real?
Right.
We have like Christianity, is that real? Or is that like a secret code for a secret society? I don't know if anybody here has heard about the Illuminati Bible, but this is something that they've been doing for so they have their own Bible that the Bible is supposedly written off of. Okay, and their Bible, in my experience, goes into how to manipulate people and to force that outcome through psychological manipulation. Okay, and it's, Jesus, for example, he was a prophet, right? And he had to become Jesus because he followed the prophecy. Okay, God's prophecy. God, I don't know who God is. Who is God? This has been something that's been a huge question for me, because once I was revealed all of this information, I realized what I thought of as God is not who's in charge at this point in time. And the person calling themselves God and the people who call that person God, that's just like a regular person who has access to the manipulation, to the electromagnetic frequency manipulation. They've got like the book, the instruction manual on how to do it. God had a little manual, and then this person has taken it. These are things that go through my mind. So how do I stay not scared? That's a really great question, actually, in realizing that we have so much misdirection in every single aspect of our lives, from, what we believed is famous to what we believed nobody's ever heard of before. Even down to that, even down to, did we have a silent military coup last January? I really don't know. Analysis says that the United States went through a silent military coup last year. People aren't aware of that. We are not aware. And so, when I am laying down at night, that's when I let myself absorb what's going on. And don't get me wrong, Brandaleen, when I was stalked in 2015, it took 2 years for me to actually want to leave the house. Okay, because I was gang stalked. I was
Why?
not stalked by one person. Yeah.
By whom?
Yeah.
Who?
Okay. Yeah. Who? I don't want to like point fingers. The committee of 300, Okay, the Committee of 300, they have a lot of followers. They call themselves Legion.
Oh,
Okay, so I know, yeah. So on the dark web, a lot of human trafficking goes on.
mm-hmm.
And I had an operation set up against me in 2015 on the dark web. And I was stalked through 5 different states by many people. Like, it's difficult to walk into a restaurant and not have everybody working there know you. Okay. So that became very creepy to me in realizing it's kind of like that Eminem song. Okay, there's a million people who will follow me. They'll do whatever I ask them to do. That's a reality here. This is an undercurrent in our society. There is a secret society that is watching people, like from birth, and to be shown that, to be shown that through my walk over the summer of 2015 was like, whoa, probably the scariest thing that I've ever dealt with. And I've dealt with kidney failure multiple times. So they freaked me out and I basically ran. I didn't walk, I ran. I was done. It was exceedingly weird and creepy for me. And over the years, I guess, because it's going on 7 years now, lucky number 7, that I I got tired. I got tired of being afraid. And that's not really who I am. I'm actually not somebody who's often afraid. So letting them control my life like that, even if, I went out and somebody recognized me, which they still often do, that's fine. I think it's weird to be a nobody and have that kind of recognition when you're walking down the street. When all of that happened to me, I was a nobody. I had like 2,500 friends on Facebook. I didn't have anything. So I've kind of like, I don't know what the right word would be, but I just kind of fought back. I pushed back and I said, you know what? I'm gonna own who I am. I'm going to own who I am. Are you guys going to own who you are? Huh? Who's gonna
Ooh.
be, yeah, who's gonna come out on top? 2022 is the year of wins for me. Okay, so who's gonna come out on top here? I think there's a lot of people who are aware of what's going on and who are on my side, actually. So they're rooting for me in this simulation, in this military operation, that I'm going to get up and do my Joan of Arcness here and actually overcome, my oppressors, which I don't know, man, this is pretty interesting. And I've been told by the other side that my oppressor is going to come and literally eat me, like devour me. So, at night when I'm by myself and I'm meditating and there's nothing going on and it's quiet here. I live out in the middle of nowhere. I live 40 minutes outside of the nearest town that only has 2,000 people. So I get a lot of peace out here, and it's easy for me to
Yeah,
allow uh, allow everything to flow like water through me.
I love that. So, few things. You said I've stopped being scared, right? And I pulled this card today. It says, don't dim to fit in. And you're like, I'm going to be who I am. So I felt like I had to share that. Like, are you guys going to show up and be who you are? Because this came for me today. And I was like,
Awesome.
okay, because I've been being pushed, right, by spirit. So to speak more, right? To say what I feel in my stomach that just is wacko. But I want to back up to something you said, how people are being watched. Now, you listen to this. I had a girl post a picture of her daughter's eyeball in my spiritual awakening group and said, who is that man on the inside of her eyeball looking out?
Yeah.
We
Oh,
all
yeah.
we all were trying to read it, tap in, and somebody said, well, she must be a new soul, so she has like this person in her eyeball keeping an eye out for her.
The
What?
man in the moon.
Yeah.
Okay. So Klaus Schwab has an advisor, can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he has an advisor who said that human beings are hackable animals. Okay, they are hackable, and they are, and that is the truth. So our earth, what we live on, whether it's round or flat, I don't know, what we see here doesn't exist, so it's a simulation, and I have no idea what's behind that simulation. In political psychology, we call that lifting the veil. So, all right, but this man, he's right on the button. Electromagnetic frequencies is what runs the earth. We are in a closed loop system, meaning that our electromagnetic frequencies react with one another. Everything can be predicted because of that. Everything can be predicted because of that. And so human beings, their central nervous systems are electrical. And once you figure out the frequency for the reactions in the brain, you can actually hack them through electromagnetic frequencies, so that we're dealing with somebody always watching, somebody always knowing. And they do like a little reveal with London, talking about how London has the most cameras in the world, for the size of its city. And I think it goes way beyond that. I go into like paranoia level when I'm telling you, like, are they in our shower heads? Are they in our contacts, our glasses? Are they in our eyes because they can hack our brain? I really don't know. I don't know, but like, man, nothing is too far fetched for me these days. I'll tell you that. So
I'm telling you what, I
not a,
just was saying, even to my late husband, I'm like, dude, we might just be on a spaceship. And he's like, don't say stuff like that. And I'm like, this is things I think about. Okay. So here's my next things. We're talking about frequency. I love spiritual science. I love learning about quantum physics, right? And how we are all interconnected. And then like one of the very first things I teach my students is to ground down, to get to the frequency of earth. When you say you're living in the middle of nowhere, maybe that's how you let it flow through you, right? You get all this knowledge and then you're just letting Mother Earth, whoever she is, take it. Like, then I start asking questions like, is that true? Because I feel really good when I ground. I feel my angels coming in and I just feel this, like your frequency. And then that's when you start getting messages. So how do you feel like this ties in, or does it, or what?
I don't know. Whatever that is flowing through me sometimes. It's like what people say, tell God your plans and he'll laugh at you. That's kind of the relationship that I have with whatever's flowing through me. I tell them my plans, they laugh at me. But at the very least, I get the opportunity to address my concerns to whomever is listening. Okay. And I do believe that whomever is listening is hearing that and responding. Okay. It's just usually in a trolling way, in my life, as sad as that is. A lot of people say that I go through the Job process like forever, and it's kind of upsetting, but that's a whole nother story. But for me, I do think it's real. I do think that that is, as real as we can get, at least here in this simulation, that we are feeling the spirit actually go through us if we open up our hearts and our minds to that. I do believe that. I do believe that the spirit is looking to to connect.
and intervene. Would you call this a spiritual war then? Because sometimes that's what I call it. It's a
This is,
spiritual war.
yeah, this is the most ridiculous spiritual war. If you could imagine flying through interdimensional space to a funny looking blue planet that is specifically with two lines of people, good, evil, right? And they fall into a little hole and they space travel to Earth, okay? And they're put into these sacks of flesh, which are very annoying. And then, we fight it out. We fight it out in this spiritual battle. And I do believe that the families, the Illuminati families, I'm sure everybody's heard of them by this point in time, are split.
Okay.
I do
That was
believe
a
that
big thing for me
split
too.
between-
Yeah.
Okay. I think that they're split between good and evil. I don't think that all of them are evil. I think the ones that are listed are, but I think that there's families that haven't been revealed to others that are working for good. And that is very important for us. And the reason why they haven't been revealed is because they know that they're at war, and so there's that guerrilla warfare that's invisible. Okay. Churchill actually is quoted as saying, the truth is so precious during war that it should be bodyguarded by lies and deceit. Okay. So that is essentially, there's this facade that we all see going on here. It might be your neighbor, it might be your pastor, it might be just a random person on the street who has evil intentions, but then it might be that homeless person who's an angel. And you never really understand or see that unless you've unlocked that in your brain.
Yeah. So here's something too. Once you get this deep and once you start seeing it, you can't unsee it. And then you want to know more. And then you're like, oh my gosh, that's why I go for the walks. Cause I'm like, that's the only way that like somehow some sort of truth or some sort of new perspective. Right. Cause I feel like spirit builds on for me. So I'm like, because they say we only know what we can know. Right. So like I'll get to hear and then they'll unlock something new. And then I'll have this new perception. And then I'll be like, okay, we got to stay here for a while. But I forgot where I was going with this.
You need a software update.
Yeah. But going for those walks, I guess is what I was saying. Is like, that's the only time that something can possibly make sense to me.
Even when I have something unlock for me, which again often happens through my quiet, dark meditation, I understand that I still have no clue. I have no clue. I can talk about some tangible things, but in regards to unlocking what this world is about, I don't think I can do that on my own. I actually think that it's going to require a mass awakening,
Mhm.
and in order for us to actually be able to grasp it, like we all need to wake up,
Yeah.
or
That's
a
what I was
vast
going to say
majority of
is
it.
once you get to this part, right? I think there's a lot of people listening that maybe feel like, okay, well, I'm going to work every day. What the fuck? If I'm living in this a whole other reality that these two girls are passionate about and obviously have things to explain it, then what the fuck am I doing? Right. And for me, like I took time off after my husband died and stuff. So now I'm like wanting to, I don't want to say come back, but all of this stuff is going on and I've consumed all this and let it ground in. So it's like, whoa, I'm not just here to run a business. You know what I mean?
That's right. I'm not just here to run a business. And so they have directed you to be distracted, and this is unfortunate. And we all go through, a night of the souls where we have to figure out exactly what our purpose is in this world. Getting back to our ancient powers, a lot of us have been misaligned with what our purpose is in this life. And in my opinion, the spirit is screaming at us but it's falling on deaf ears. And so if you get that opportunity to look within yourself and realize what your gift is, what is your purpose. I don't have it near me. I have a large library. I don't have it near me, but a few, probably about 2 months ago, I did this amazing analysis from somebody at church recommending that I go through a spiritual gift workshop.
Mhm.
Okay. And it explains what is your spiritual gift. And then by the end of the book, it tells you, it helps you figure out what is your purpose in life. Okay. And so my purpose in life is to help guide people to the truth about who they really are so that they can fulfill their purpose for the spirit's plan. All right. So I'm also an angry person. So at one point, a couple of people were like, I don't think that that's quite there, Rachel. So I was like, okay, angrily lead people to figure out what they, inspire people to figure out what their purpose is. Because I do have that duality in me. There is no doubt in my mind. I have the feminine goddess softness, a priestess almost, where I have those healing powers with others. But at the same time, I have this like ravenous sun god anger inside of me, in which I just want to, like, retribution with my fire sword and, knock people down and tell them you are not allowed here and then bind their energy up. Like, I honestly believe in doing, I fantasize about all of this because the energy that they project is so bad for all of us. It's so
Yeah.
bad for all of us that I just want to bind it up and tell them, no more, young man, like they're my children, and chastise them. And, you don't draw on the wall anymore. This is ridiculous.
Oh, I love
It
that
was
you
fun
said,
while it lasted.
yeah, I love how
Yeah, go
you
ahead.
said bind their energy, right? So as much as we're being manipulated, when you realize that you can manipulate energy yourself just by doing what you just said, and you protected how many people from that energy getting out, right? So
Yes.
I mean, I'm such a
Yes.
nerd about stuff like that. It's you're moving energy.
Oh, yeah, you are. Okay. So this is like physics. Energy doesn't die. It does not go away. There's no way to get rid of it. So again, we are in a closed loop system. Religions refer to it as reincarnation, right?
Okay.
Uh, all right. But like what we are, the energy that we are, some religions refer to it as the soul, right? So what we are on the inside, that energy, it can never die. It can only be moved and manipulated. And so that is what we have to think about here in regards to, how we fight what's going on here. And in my opinion, the way to fight it is through education, through revelation, through explaining to people and hoping that they go out, they do their own research, and they come to the same conclusion. I mean, thousands of us have come to this conclusion. It's no surprise, and the government, what we see as the visual government, they they're trying to manipulate it for like very base reasons, and what's been done here is for like high level, almost like The Giver status. I don't
What
know if you know about the book The Giver. So The Giver is a dystopian futuristic book. It's a children's book, actually, where the society is bound. Okay. And there's leadership that only allows society to see certain things. They don't have rain, they don't have snow, they don't have precipitation. Every single day is like being in San Diego. It's 70 and sunny, and you're just going to enjoy your day at the beach. They're assigned purposes. You're not allowed to have children. Those, certain birthing mothers are only allowed to have the children. You're assigned a family at birth. Okay, so it's like all of these things are bound and manipulated as their energy. But there's one person in that society who is in charge with having all of the real memories of humanity, from the wars and the strife, the famines, starvation, and political manipulation. All of the history of humanity is given to this one person, and then an 11-year-old is assigned to become the next giver, because the giver is getting old and he needs a replacement. And so this 11-year-old is starting to be given the real history of humans, while he still has to function in this completely bound and manipulated society in which everything is fake, and everything is laid out and quite creepy. It's very much like nowadays. But as he starts to be revealed all of this information, he starts to question who he is and who his town is, what his purpose is in life, and what they do to harm other people without them realizing it. And so it's a very interesting book. I highly suggest that everybody read it, just to give you an idea in regards to them telling you what is going on without actually telling you what's going on. Because, if we were to try and do that, our brains would explode. It's literally like in the Matrix, where they're like, hey, we can't just like pull the cord, man. Like, people will have a meltdown and that'll be the end of that. That's where we're at right now. And so I do believe that the spirit is actually working towards revealing all of this to people. But it's hard and it's difficult, and possibly we're running out of time.
Yeah. I feel like it's people like you and I having conversations like this, which is really going to help people wake up.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm regularly doing talks like this, all over the place, and I've been doing this for, I don't know, 3 years or so, where I'm finally like, okay, all right, I finally feel safe enough, or strong enough to actually come out and talk about these things, having experienced a revelation myself, and I don't know, continue to have things revealed to me. It's like I literally upload data every night while I'm sleeping and wake up. It's a new thing. Uh, so I try not to be too overwhelmed, but at the same time, I humbly try to get this information out to people so that they can understand for themselves where we stand, because we won't have any type of awakening until a vast majority of people understand that, yeah, we are completely manipulated. Like, the idea of slavery is not just like, somebody going out and buying another person out on the market. We have been psychologically enslaved. This
Amen.
is
Yeah,
it's like having a prison, but you don't see the bars.
exactly. Exactly. So I think there's a lot of people, including myself, that wants to make sure to get out. I want to get out of the city, get back, into nature. For me, it's because I really miss nature, but also because like you're talking about the frequency, like I'm in Las Vegas right now. There's got to be the huge cloud or grid, an energetic grid. So like I get, like you were saying earlier, anxious, depressed. Like I'm like, I don't feel comfortable just sitting here in my condo here. I'm like, I gotta go. I'm always going to Utah. I'm always going up the mountains because I'm like, I gotta get out. But would you say that that's probably one of and a very important thing for people to do to get out of the city?
You know, yeah, it was a goal of mine. Okay, so when I was 7, and this is what I mean by political activist, since I was 7, my mom told me, like anybody else, you can be whatever you want to be when you grow up. So I said, Mom, I know what I want to be. And she's like, what's that? And I said, I want to be Amish. And she laughed at me and she said, I don't think it works like that, honey, but it does. Okay. So, but side note, like the following week, I read the biographies of the sitting Supreme Court justices in 1994. And that's when I was like, I want to be a Supreme Court justice and I want to give people as much freedom as possible. And my mom was like, yeah, go for it, you know, and I became completely disenchanted with that. That's not how to do it. This is how to do it, you know, because I didn't realize that that's just it's so low in regards to the amount of freedom that we could actually have, that this is now what I end up doing is just speaking the truth and letting people know about the system that we're actually in and not just the politics of it. But I did become, I did grow up and actually become somewhat Amish. So, I live way out in the woods. I have a little hobby farm for myself, bees and chickens and ducks and a garden and a greenhouse. And, we try and take care of each other. And there's lots of trading going on and bartering, hey, do you have glassed eggs? Yes, I do. Do you have, any plants or anything that I can have? Why, yes, I do. Here are some of this or some of that. I have some honey for you. So, I personally felt sick, and I do still get sick anytime that I go to the city. So like physically sick. I'm not really sure, what frequency that's on, that they can actually cause me to have the sniffles and a sore throat and, all of that good stuff. But I do. I mean, it's like without fail. And everybody talks about germ theory, but I think it's a frequency. I think it's a manipulation. And I've thought that way since 2015. There was a lot of 2015 that was on the road and out camping just so that I could get away from people, get away from the frequencies of what is happening here. Because, just to be honest, there's some people who know and are like completely on board with what is going on. So, it's very difficult to fight that. They are constantly battling with you. They are constantly tricking you. And, this is where letting things flow through you helps you, delegitimize that fear and realize the power of yourself.
Yeah. I love how you
Okay.
said getting away from the frequencies. So when I moved to Michigan, before I moved to Michigan, I was sick 3-4 times a year in Vegas. And then I lived in Michigan for over 8 years and I only got sick once, where I actually went to the doctor and was like, dude, I need a breathing treatment or whatever.
Yeah.
And then now I've been back. I've been sick twice just the last few months, like sick.
Mhm.
I called it the Barfacron. I was so sick with the stomach flu. And then after that, I think I got the Rona. I don't know, but what, I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I lived in the Chicagoland area with my mom growing up. I was frequently sick. Living in Denver, I was frequently sick. I moved out here. I've been sick twice. And both of those reasons were because I took a weekend trip to Denver.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
So my kids are not sick, so I really think that this is something going on. Now, this also delves into what else they're doing to make sure that our brains aren't functioning. And that does include, chemical warfare and what they're doing to our foods, making fake foods so that our bodies are not functioning in the most proper way. So, they've got levels of this going on to the point where we're all enslaved. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not, yeah, we are compromised. We are not our true selves. We are not on a true path. We are on a false path. And because of that, we continue to suffer. I don't think our suffering happens because you're being punished for this. Our suffering happens because we are not aligned with our true selves. And so that's the energy trying to pivot and redirect us exactly where we should be.
Yeah. That's where a lot of my clients find me. They're ready to be redirected. They're so lost because they've been following everything they told them to follow. Then they're just like, they have this breakdown and they find me somehow. And then it's on, like, let's manipulate the energy and shift. Yeah.
Most people come to me for legal revelation. Okay, so my background is in constitutional law. And so most people are so completely unaware. They have this gut feeling, and they're like starting to wake up. And this is the first level. This is like kindergarten, where we're teaching people how to read, for example. They're learning how to read with political information. Okay. And then there's people like us who are 3-4 levels above that. We realize this is like be off of earth as far as I'm concerned, and so yeah, that's where people usually come up to me, and they're like, wow, I'm learning about this, and then I say, oh yeah, let me explain all of this. So right now, for example, in my local community, I'm working with people on how to explain how health departments have superseded their authority and have used, what they have given powers from our government. And I have to use those air quotes because they're not legitimate. Okay. Nobody is working legitimately at this point. Everybody has broken the contract. Everything is void, it's illusory and ridiculous. But I don't want to go into detail on that here. But this is usually where people are seeking me out. And so right now I'm working with people on the health department to see how they're overreaching and the exact laws for it, so that they can move on and show other people this. And so really it's these baby steps that we are taking as a collective that are helping us. Me, sometimes I don't always have the patience for those baby steps. So sometimes you'll see me on podcasts where I just rip the Band-Aid off. This is it. Yeah, a little hair came with it. You'll be okay. And I just don't know. I became really impatient about it. I just want people to know the big picture, and then they can put the pieces of the puzzle back together themselves, however they see it and what their vision is and their perception, because we are all part of this puzzle. In political theory, it's called the marketplace of ideas. If you don't have ideas from everybody, if you censor people because you don't like them, or you think they're too young, or you think they're too old, or they have brown hair and brown-haired people are stupid, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? If you censor people, you don't actually get the full, true picture. This is how we are all aligned with one another. This is how we are all one. We are all one through this spirit that has been put in and dwells within us. The definition of inspiration is to breathe into. Okay, and so the spirit breathes into us, it inspires us, and it does that for everybody, big and small. And so everybody has a piece of that puzzle, and I think that is what we need to unlock here. That's what we're seeking to unlock here.
Yeah. So I love how people find you with the logical and the political side. They find me for more the energetic, emotional side. But when you put it all together and everybody steps forward in their purpose, it puts that puzzle together. So it is so important for us to stay connected with like minds, right? And to realize that, so that and to realize the thing about the censorship too, because that in itself is cockblocking some of us, right? Where we're not able to find each other.
Definitely. I mean, for me, I'm censored all the time and everywhere. It's very weird. It's interesting to watch. It's like, wow, did they not realize that I'm watching this? And like the level of my perception is it's off there. So like I'm not sitting here going, oh, that political guy did, he did something I didn't like. Political man bad. No, I'm like, well, that's just a bigger piece of the puzzle. A lot of people don't realize that, and they're taken off guard actually once they realize my level of perception is very, very deep. Sometimes they will even just like try to stop like talking to me. They'll like run away. Because I've caught them in what they have been doing, you know, perhaps assisting in political or psychological manipulation. I've seen political, economic, religious, you know, the list goes on and on in regards to how people try to manipulate one another for this end goal. So, you know, you've got the New World Order over here with their end goal, and then you've got people in the middle who are just kind of on the fence. They're like, I don't know if I want to do anything. That's, you know, that's a little scary for me. And then you've got other people who are like, no, I'm standing in righteousness. I'm standing in truth. Okay, this is the truth about what's going on. For me, I'm even a little bit further to the right than that. Here is the truth. I would like you to, you know, find out about this truth. And then I'm hands off from there. One of the things that people get most upset with me about is that I don't want to control people. I have no inclination to control people. It kind of makes me a little nauseous to think about it. Ooh, and the drama and the stress, like I don't really have it in me, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of people do. And I don't want to do that. I want people to be able to seek out and find the truth and then come to their own conclusions, and then everybody come together and reach a solution that way. That's really where I stand, and why I talk out about this.
Yeah. I love that you're doing it. You're showing up with your purpose
Yeah,
and with spirit, inspiration, all the things. I love it. So what was the name of the book that you
life.
said? Yeah.
Which one?
That's
This
the book
one? The
you said that you wrote.
Oh, that I wrote. Yeah, I wrote How Medical Tyranny Murdered the United States Constitution. I'm pretty sure you can still find it online for free here and there. So, because it's really, it's not something that should just, you know, it's not a moneymaker for me. It's literally like, hey, like, let's all discuss this bull right here, because this is just nonsensical. And I'm a solution oriented person and always have been. You know, I like to be functional in a dysfunctional environment, so I like to figure out solutions. Because of that, I grew up in a really dysfunctional environment, and I was in state mandated therapy for 11 years. So it was like every week was like, okay, what happened? Wow, that's really awful. Okay, we'll talk about what you can do to, you know, stay positive in this kind of environment. And then, you know, the next one was, okay, let's, you know, write these down and you go off and do them. So I was like a super nerd in school, like definitely an overachiever, teacher's pet, you name it. I was all of those things. And I had to so that I could survive in the kind of environment that I was in. And so that's how you know, a couple years ago when COVID happened, people were getting like really mad at me for revealing things too early. So, you know, that's basically what it is I'm a little bit ahead of the curve, and it's taken me a couple years here to be able to find like a happy medium between myself and my audience so that they don't freak out about the information that I'm giving them. I'm not trying to freak people out. You know, I really just want people to understand what's going on. And I empathize deeply with people who are like, I have a job. I'm a single mom. I don't know what you're expecting me to do here and to fix this problem, you know. I don't know if it's up to I don't know if it's up to our generation. I don't know if this it's up to here and now. You know, this is like planting a seed so that you can have fruit on a tree when you know you're not going to be there. You know, and this is
Yeah.
for the next generation. This is for them to know and to figure out, I think, which is sad. You know, but over the last several years with my experience with people, we're just simply not ready. And nobody really wants the band-aid pulled off. They don't want to lose any hairs, you know. But life is not about comfort, you know, and that's something that we all should deeply consider. Life is not about comfort. Life is about our purpose. We all have a purpose and we all need to figure that out. um, I hope it happens soon. I really do. But I don't know. I think that this is a couple generation issue to be fixed and resolved. And I hope that we have the time to do it.
Yeah, I hope that our seeds that we planted are bountiful because it's crazy wild. What?
Yeah, I have it's almost like a time, what are those called with
Uh,
the little time clock?
an hourglass?
An hourglass. Thank you. Yes. Okay, so it's kind of like an hourglass. If we go back to how the ancients had all of this knowledge about frequency manipulation, they have all of this sand in their hourglass, and as we've gone generation to generation to generation to generation, we have less and less knowledge. Okay, and we're getting to the point where the bottom's full, and we're going to have to flip it over again so that we can start giving that knowledge away again. And I think that that's where people like you and I, that's our purpose, is to start spreading this knowledge as far and wide as possible, so that it's not lost again. That's
Yeah.
what we're here for.
Wow. Thank you. I feel so inspired now. Like inspired to show up and, create. That's what I do, right? Create content to help plant the seeds.
Yes, well, some of our gifts are to create. It's to create with nature. So whether that is with our minds or with wood or some other type of element, that is our purpose in life. And it is to inspire others to their purpose. That is what it's there for.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I wrote a book a long time ago. It's just a tiny baby book, Your Freaking Amazing Life. But then the very last chapter is titled You Are Here to Change the World. And I talk about the little bridge of ants, and you know how they make a bridge out of themselves. And then somebody walks along and I'm like, you are part of the bridge of ants. So it's so important for you to be there so that someone else could get further.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I know my purpose is in giving to others. And so, John Wick style, I've been of service, I will be of service. So
I love it. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast.
thanks for having me.
Do you want to tell people where they can find you again, or where you would like to steer them to? Because I know they need to read your content that will really help educate them.
Sure, absolutely. You can find me on Facebook as Rachel Sunshine, and DIY Anarchy and Maiden Anarchy. I don't have any of my websites up right now because I'm currently doing something very off of what I usually do, and I have been helping a national monument as they have their operations taken over by the Forest Service. So I have been helping a national monument do that. And so I can't work on my regular projects, which are literacy2liberty.org and Mountain Maiden Trading Company, which is where I do all of my fabulous cooking. So
Awesome. Yes. I love all the pictures of all the yummy food that you made.
oh, and I assure you, it tastes as good as it looks.
I love it. I love it. Well, thanks again for being on the podcast with me today.
Thanks, Brandaleen. I really appreciate you. Love you. We've been friends for years. I've always loved your content. I'm so appreciative of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.